here, and today I'm back. I know it's been a while since I've uploaded, but I just decided I wanted to, because like I didn't know what I wanted to film. I thought I wanted to film something different, and I'm like, I remembered that I did a Revenge of the Sith novel kind of a couple of days ago, like maybe 4 days ago. I did a video on reading the Revenge of the first 10 pages. I'm gonna read another 10 pages today, and I said 4 days ago I was gonna do 2 videos that day, but I did one because I was like, I wanted to go do something else. I didn't want to film anymore. Because it's so good. This book, from what I remember, was really good. And I'm gonna get back and I'm gonna read it to you guys again because, right? It's a really good book. Matthew Stover is a really good author, especially for writing what he wrote. But if you guys are new to the channel, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Also, if you haven't seen any of my other videos, go check them out. And yeah, just like in my first video, I had this where you guys listen to me reading the story to you guys, basically story time. But I want to film this for you guys because I did this for Revenge of the Sith in my first video ranking every Star Wars movie, and it's right here, and you guys have seen it. It's right here. So if you guys want to check that video out, it is my first video, and I don't have that much videos out, so you guys will find it easily. So if you want to check it out, yeah, go ahead. Alright, so we're on Anakin and Obi-Wan, page 11, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, page 11, because I didn't read this yet. And we're going to read up until page 20. We'll read page 20. But we won't read page 21, 22, or any of those pages. We're going to read 10 pages like I've done before. I'm going to start now. Anti-fighter flag flashed on all sides, even louder than the clatter of shrapnel and the snarl of his sublight drives. His cockpit hummed and rang with near hits from the turbo laser fire of the capital ships crowding space around him. Sometimes his swirling spinning dive through the cloud of battle skimmed burst so closely that the energy scatter would slam a starfighter hard enough to bounce his head off the supports of his pilot's chair. Right now, Obi-Wan Kenobi envied the clones. At least they had helmets. R4, he said on internal comm. Can't you do something with the inertials? The droid ganged into the socket on his starfighter's left wing, whistled something that sounded suspiciously like a human apology. Obi-Wan's frown deepened. R4 P-17 had been spending too much time with Anakin's eccentric astromech. It was picking up R2-D2's bad habits. New burst of flak bracketed his path. He reached into the Force, feeling for a safe channel through the swarms of shrapnel and sizzling nets of particle beams. There wasn't one. He locked a snarl behind his teeth, twisting his starfighter around another explosion that could have peeled its armor like an overripe Ithorian starfruit. He hated this part, hated it. Flying for droids. His cockpit speakers crackled. There isn't a droid made that can outfly you, Master. I don't know why I'm laughing. That wasn't very funny, but I guess, alright, I'm gonna continue. He could still be surprised by the new depth of that voice, the calm confidence, the maturity. It seemed that only last week Anakin had been a 10-year-old who would stop pestering about Form 1 lightsaber combat. Sorry, he muttered, kicking into a dive that slipped a turbo laser burst by no more than a meter. Was that out loud? Wouldn't matter if it wasn't. I know what you're thinking. Do you? He looked up through the cockpit canopy to find his one-time Padawan flying inverted, mirroring him so closely that but for the transparent steel between them, they might have shaken hands. Obi-Wan smiled up at him. Some new gift of the Force? Not the Force, Master. Experience. That's what you're always thinking. Obi-Wan kept hoping to hear some of Anakin's old, cocky grin in his tone. But he never did. Not since Jabin. I don't even know how to pronounce that word. I'm going to say Jabim. Yeah, Jabim. Perhaps not since Geonosis. The war had burned it out of him. Obi-Wan still tried now and again to spark a real smile on his former Padawan, and Anakin still tried to answer. They both still tried to pretend the war hadn't changed them. Obi-Wan took a hand from the starfighter's control yoke to direct his upside-down friend's attention forward. Dead ahead, a blue-white point of light splintered into 4 laser straight trails of ion drives. I'm gonna go ion drives. And what does experience tell you we should do about those incoming tri-fighters? That we should break, right? Obi-Wan was already making the exact move as Anakin spoke, but they were inverted to each other. Breaking right shot him one way while Anakin whipped the other. The tri-fighters cannons ripped space between them, tracking faster than the starfighters could slip. His onboard threat display chimed a warning to the droids. The two of the droids had remote sensor logs on him. The others must have lit up his partner. Anakin slipped jaws. I thought exactly. They flew past the tri-fighters, looping in evasive spirals. The droid ship wrenched themselves into pursuit maneuvers that would have killed any living pilot. The slip jaws maneuver was named for the scissor-like mandibles of the Kashyyyk spider. Droids closing rapidly on their tails, cannon fire stitching space on all sides. The two Jedi pulled their ships, though perfectly mirrored rolls that sent them streaking head-on for each other from opposite ends of a vast Republic cruiser for merely human pilots. This would be suicide by the time you can see your partner starfighter streaking toward you at a respectable fraction of light speed. It's already too late for your merely human reflexes to react. But these particular pilots were far from merely human. The Force nudged hands on control yokes, and the Jedi starfighters twisted and flashed past each other, belly to belly, close enough to scorch each other's paint. Tri-fighters were the Trade Federation's latest space superiority droid, but even the electronic reflexes of the tri-fighter's droid brains were too slow for this. One of his pursuers met one of Anakin's head on. Both vanished in a blossom of flame. The shock wave of debris and expanding gas rocked Obi-Wan. He fought the control yoke, barely keeping his starfighter out of tumble that would have smeared him across the cruiser's ventral hull. Before he could straighten out, his threat display chimed again. "Oh, marvelous," he muttered under his breath. Anakin's surviving pursuer had switched targets. Why is it always me? Perfect, though the cockpit speakers, Anakin's voice carried grim satisfaction. Both of them are on your tail. Perfect is not the word I'd use. Obi-Wan twisted his yoke, juking madly as space around him flared scarlet. We have to split them. Break left, Anakin sounded calm as a stone. The turbo laser tower off your port bow. Threaded guns. I'll take things from here. Easy for you to say. Obi-Wan whipped sideways along the cruiser's superstructure. Fire from the pursuing tri-fighters blasted burning chunks from the cruiser's armor. Why am I always the debate? I'm right behind you, R2. Lock on. Obi-Wan spun his starfighter between the recoiling turbo cannons, close enough that energy scatter made his cockpit clang like a gong. But still, cannon fire flashed past him from the tri-fighters behind. Anakin, they're all over me. Dead ahead, move right to clear my shot. Now. Obi-Wan flared his port jets, and the starfighter kicked to the right. One of the tri-fighters behind him decided it couldn't follow and went for a ventral slip that took it directly into the blast from Anakin's cannons. It vanished in a boil of superheated gas. Good shooting, R2. Anakin's dry chuckle in the cockpit speakers vanished behind the clang of lasers, blasting ablative, shielding off Obi-Wan's left wing. I'm running out of tricks here. Clearing the vast Republic cruiser put him on course for the curving hull of one of the Trade Federation's battleships. Space between the two capital ships blazed with turbo laser exchanges. Some of those flashing energy blasts were as big around his entire ship. The merest graze would blow him to atoms. Obi-Wan dived right in. He had the force to guide him through, and the Tri-Fighter had only its electronic reflexes. But those electronic reflexes operated as roughly the speed of light. It stayed on his tail as if he were dragging it by a tow cable. When Obi-Wan went left and Anakin right, the Tri-Fighter would swing halfway through the difference. The same with Anakin, the same with up and down. It was averaging his movements with Anakin's. Somehow its droid brain had realized that as long as it stayed between the two Jedi, Anakin couldn't fire on it, but without hitting his partner. The Tri-Fighter was under no similar restraint. Obi-Wan flew through a storm of scarlet needles. No wonder we're losing the war, he muttered. They're getting smarter. What was that, Master? I didn't copy. Obi-Wan kicked his starfighter into a tight spiral toward the Federation cruiser. I'm taking the deck. I'm taking the deck. Good idea. I need some room to maneuver. Cannon fire tracked closer. Obi-Wan's cockpit speakers buzzed. Cut right, Obi-Wan. Hard right. Don't let him get a handle on you, R2. Lock on. Obi-Wan's starfighter streaked along the curve of the Separatist cruiser's dorsal hull. Anti-fighter flag burst on all sides as the cruiser's guns tried to pick him up. He rolled a right wing over into the service trench that stretched the length of the cruiser's hull. This low and close to the deck, the cruiser's anti-fighter guns couldn't depress their angle of fire enough to get a shot, but the Tri-Fighter stayed right on his tail. At the far end of the service trench, the massive support buttresses of the cruiser's towering bridge left no room for even Obi-Wan's small craft. He kicked his starfighter into a half roll that whipped him out of the trench and shot him straight up the tower's angled leading edge. One burst of his underjets jerked him past the forward viewports of the bridge with only meters to spare, and the Tri-Fighter followed his path exactly. Of course, he muttered, that would have been too easy. Anakin, where are you? One of the control surfaces on his left wing shattered in a burst of plasma. It felt like being shot in the arm. He toggled switches, fighting the yoke. R4P17 still shrilled at him. Obi-Wan keyed internal comm. Don't try to fix it, R4. I've shut it down. I have the lock, Anakin said. Go, firing now. Obi-Wan hit maximum drag on his intact wing, and his starfighter shot into a barely controlled R high and right as Anakin's cannons vaporized the last Tri-Fighter. Obi-Wan fired retros to saw his starfighter in the blind spot behind the Separatist cruiser's bridge. He hung there for a few seconds to get his breathing and heart under control. Thanks, Anakin. Thanks. That's all. Don't thank me. It was R2 shooting. Yes, I suppose, if you like, you could thank your droid for me as well, Anakin. Yes, Master, next time you're the bait. This is Obi-Wan Kenobi, a phenomenal pilot who doesn't like to fly, a devastating warrior who'd rather not fight, a negotiator without peer who frankly prefers to sit alone in a quiet cave and meditate, Jedi Master, General in the Grand Army of the Republic, member of the Jedi Council, and yet inside he feels like he's none of these things. That is true. Guys, if you guys didn't know, Obi-Wan felt like he was always like so weak, even though he was so powerful. He was he was actually really good. He was really skilled. He felt like out of all the Jedi, he was really weak. Even though in Revenge of the Sith, that's not true. He just beat Anakin and all these Jedi Masters that Anakin went against. He just killed. He killed all the younglings. He killed Jedi's, and some of them had to leave because of Order 66. They're not as powerful. Inside, he still feels like a Padawan. That is also true. In a lot of lore reasons, he does say that. Like, actually, this is what you guys need to know, which I know from videos of this guy called Vader's Order. If you guys haven't watched, if you guys know who he is, you probably do. He said this in one of his videos of how he thought he was always the weakest. That he was always the weakest, and he always felt like he was a Padawan. But let's get back to it. It is a truism of the Jedi Order that a Jedi Knight's education truly begins only when he becomes a master, that everything important about being a master is learned from one student. Obi-Wan feels the truth of this every day. He sometimes dreams of when he was a Padawan. In fact, as well as feeling, he dreams that his own master Qui-Gon did not die at that plasma field generator core in Theed. He dreams that his master's wise guiding hand is still with him, but Qui-Gon's death is an old pain, one with which he long ago came to terms. A Jedi does not cling to the past, and Obi-Wan knows too that to have lived his life without being master to Anakin Skywalker would have left him a different man, a lesser man. And Anakin has taught him so much. Obi-Wan sees so much of Qui-Gon and Anakin that sometimes it hurts his heart. At the very least, Anakin mirrors Qui-Gon's flair for the dramatic and his casual disregard for rules. That is true because Anakin's father figure, someone he looked up to, was Qui-Gon, because he was like the person who believed in him. He always thought he was, when the Jedi Council, even Obi-Wan thought he shouldn't be a Jedi. He was way too old to be a Jedi, and he heard Obi-Wan saying those things. But the only father figure that Anakin had was Anakin and Qui-Gon, because he believed in him. He freaking believed in him, that Qui-Gon believed that he could be a Jedi because he's so powerful in the Force. He believed that he was the chosen one. They didn't believe that he was the chosen one, and they didn't want him to become a Jedi. They were right in some ways, but if Qui-Gon hadn't died, I think the entire Star Wars saga, the Skywalker saga, would have been completely different. That the Skywalker saga, there would have been no Darth Vader, there wouldn't have been anything. But that was the whole point, because I made the original trilogy first. Darth Vader is Anakin Skywalker. With that father figure that he needed, he was killed because I knew that it would impact his entire story, and that George Lucas knew. That's why I love his writing, and how it is so important to listen to everything he has in Star Wars, because it all makes so much sense. But yes, I will keep. I'm gonna keep reading, boys. Training Anakin, fighting beside him all these years, has unlocked something inside Obi-Wan. It's as though Anakin has rubbed off on him a bit, and has loosened that clenched jaw insistence on absolute correctness that Qui-Gon always said was his greatest flaw. Obi-Wan Kenobi has learned to relax. He smiles now, and sometimes even jokes, and he has become known for the wisdom, gentle humor he can provide. Though he does not know it, his relationship with Anakin has modeled him into the great Jedi Qui-Gon always said he might someday be. It is characteristic of Obi-Wan that he is entirely unaware of this. Being named to the council came as a complete surprise. Even now, he is sometimes astonished by the faith the Jedi has in his abilities, and the credit they give to his wisdoms. Greatness was never his ambition. He wants to only perform whatever task he is given to the best of his ability. He is respected throughout the Jedi Order for his insight as well as his warrior skill. He has become the hero of the next generations of Padawans. He is the Jedi their masters hold up as a model. He is a being that the Council assigns to their most important missions. He is modest, centered, and always kind. He is the ultimate Jedi, and he is proud to be Anakin Skywalker's best friend. R2, where's that signal? From its socket behind the cockpit, R2-D2 whistled and beeped as translation spidered across Anakin's console readout, scanning lots of ECM signal jamming. Keep on. He glanced at Obi-Wan's starfighter, limping through the battle 100 meters off his left wing. I could feel his jitters from all the way over here. A Tootle, a Jedi was always calm. He won't think it's funny. Neither do I. Less joking, more scanning. For Anakin Skywalker's starfighter battles were usually as close to fun as he ever came. This one wasn't. Not because of the overwhelming odds or the danger he was in. He didn't care about the odds, and he didn't think of himself as being in any particular danger. A few wings of droid fighters didn't much scare a man who'd been a pod racer since he was 6 and won the Bounty Cup at 9, who was in fact the only human to ever finish a pod race, let alone win one. In those days, he had used the Force without knowing it. He thought the Force was something inside him, just a feeling, an instinct, a string of lucky guesses that led him through maneuvers other pilots wouldn't dare attempt. Now he could reach into the Force and feel the engagement throughout Coruscant space, as though though the whole battle were happening inside his head. His vehicle became his body. The pulses of its engines were the beats of his own heart. Flying, he could forget about his slavery, about his mother, about Geonosis, and Jabim, Argonar, and Moonlinst. Whatever those planets are. I know about Geonosis. I know about his slavery and his mother. Everybody knows about his mother. And all the catastrophes of this brutal war, about everything that had been done to him, and even he had done. He could even put aside for as long as the battle roared around him the starfire of his love for the woman who waited for him on the world below, the woman whose breath was his only air, whose heartbeat was his only music, whose face was the only beauty his eyes could ever see. He could put all this aside because he was a Jedi, because it was time to do a Jedi's work. But today was different. Today wasn't about dodging lasers and blasting droids. Today was about the life of the man who might as well have been his father, a man who could die if the Jedi didn't reach him in time. Anakin had been late once before. Obi-Wan's voice came over the cockpit speakers, flat and tight. Does your droid have anything? Our force is hopeless. I think that last cannon hit cooked his motivator. Anakin could see exactly the look on his former master's face, a mask of calm, bellied by a jaw so tight that when he spoke, his mouth barely moved. Don't worry, Master. If his beacon's working, R2 will find it. Have you thought about how we'll find the Chancellor? If no, Obi-Wan sounded absolutely certain. There's no need to consider it until the possible becomes actual. It is only a distraction. Be mindful of what it is, not what it might be. Not what might be. Anakin had to stop himself from reminding Obi-Wan that he wasn't a Padawan anymore. I should have been here, he said through his teeth. I told you I should have been here. Wow. Oh, that is insane. So much lore just happened right there in my head. Where Obi-Wan's thoughts, where he still feels like he's a Padawan, really kind of like speaks to me. Because like he's so powerful, but he doesn't care. He still feels that is not true. He feels like everything he's done it doesn't matter, because like he's not a because he doesn't feel any different, and he doesn't feel very much better. Like he's not much different from what he was. He feels like he was still a Padawan, even though he's a Jedi Master, really powerful on the Force, and he understands, because what he is because from what I know from a lot of people who are freaking know everything about Star Wars, literally know everything, have said that Obi-Wan didn't care. Like he would maybe have been weak in the Force, but he's a listener, and he'll listen. He'll literally study everything. He's one of those people who study until they memorize and they literally know everything, so they know how to use it. He may not have been as powerful as Anakin. Anakin couldn't control his power. He couldn't control his dark side. That's why it ended up making him lose. Which is from what I know, but this book is going to help me understand it. Which I know, but I don't understand it from watching YouTube shorts about Star Wars. I do watch a lot of documentaries, people who know all these things, but the books make more sense because I can remember this, and I could go back and watch these videos that I'm filming, and see that see what I learned and what I can remember just by hearing myself read these again. But like, it's not like I'm gonna, at the end of the day, I'm just learning about a world that isn't real, a galaxy that isn't real, but I love, and that's what I want to know, because it doesn't make sense if you just watch the movies 1, 2, 3, skip Clone Wars 4, 5, and 6, and Actually, no. If you watch 1 and 2, you don't watch Clone Wars movie or show, and you just skip ahead to number 3, and then Solo, and then Rogue One, and then episode 4, 5, and 6. If you watch it that way, it's much harder to understand, and it gets fall. You may see his little bit of fall in Attack of the Clones, which is what I like about that movie, but you'll see that it makes way more sense. His fall to the dark side makes way more sense if you watch all the Clone Wars, because you can see him use dark side and is fighting a lot. Like, I feel like Anakin 1 should have had a purple lightsaber like Mace Windu and not a blue one, but in the originals, Luke had a blue one. But like, I guess that doesn't matter. But I feel like, in my opinion, he should, because he's one, not as powerful in the Force as Obi-Wan. Like, he doesn't know how to use the Force as much as Obi-Wan can. 2, he doesn't know how. 2, he's good at the duel, but he has purple because he has a bunch of dark side. So, like, his crystal should have turned purple or something, because he's, like, conflicted a lot. I feel like it's what should have happened when he, like, became when he was starting to become Darth Vader. Like, he was so confused. Is Padme dying? Is his man I'm listening to right? Is the Jedi right? Is the Jedi evil? Or is he evil? He doesn't know. The purple should have represented that, but they didn't do that. That's not how crystals work there, and that's how I like this. The crystals working is the way you have to bleed your crystal to turn it red, or you meditate and your crystal will probably turn purple. His crystal he found was just a plain crystal. It was just a crystal that couldn't power anything until he meditates and it turns blue, and that's what he got because he's blue. But now it's all like, now that it's what it is, now I understand I understand a little bit more of this book a little bit. I'm understanding. I'm gonna start reading this book every single day for my YouTube channel, and I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out, boys. And may the Force be with you all. The Force will be with you always.